You can either use your excuse as the reason you stay stuck, or you can say, this is my reality. I must become more of a person and become more resilient and find a way. You can have that mindset of I can't do something, or you can have the same problem and say, how can I do that thing? Not I can't afford it, how can I afford it? 99% of the teachers I worked with when I was a 9-to-5 teacher for most of my life, it's like, okay, this is how much money I'm going to make every year for the rest of my life. Because of that, I can do these things. As teachers, a lot of us adopt that mindset of this is my income, this is what's possible for me. Because of that, this is how I will live every day for the rest of my life. And for me, that caused massive anxiety and stress. Like, I hated that. I felt like I was building a cage around myself. But no, I want my income to be unlimited, untapped. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Rising Father podcast. I'm Chris Rodack. Today, I'm going to be going through a couple of the weekly check-ins I've done in the Men on Fire program. And what this looks like is once a week, the guys get back to me personally with, kind of like a journal of these are the things I need help with. These are the things I'm struggling with. This is, what I want some one-on-one coaching and attention with. So they fill out this form, they send me, either video, audio, or they type it out for me. Then I take a look at it, reflect, and I get back to them. But I'm going to go through a couple of these, depending on how long it takes, because they're not the only ones who struggle with this. Many guys, every one of us, when you listen to this, you're going to hear things that I'm sure you struggle with as well. I've done it too. People join this program so they can fix these things and improve and get disciplined, but that doesn't mean you turn into Superman. It means at no point, even if you're with us for 5 years, at no point are you going to become invincible. The key isn't perfection. The key isn't being a perfect person. The key is being somebody who has the resources and skills and lack of ego to reach out and get help. We talk a lot about not letting one domino affect the other ones. Like, you're having a bad day, you just let it be one bad day. You don't let a bad day turn into a bad year. So how do you do that? You say, hey, Chris, I'm struggling with this, or find your friend or somebody or whatever group you're in. Say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can somebody help me? And then we help you, or somebody helps you, because you didn't keep it inside, because you didn't let your ego sabotage you, because you shared it and opened up. And because you shared and opened up, now we can help you like a doctor helps a patient. Instead of letting that cancer fester for years, we can just remove it day one instead of letting it grow for years. That's why we say don't let one domino knock over the rest of them. Whenever you don't share it, you keep it to yourself, you don't address it, that one bad day knocks over all the other ones, and it can turn into a decade. Like, your one weekend with the boys drinking and eating can ruin your marriage. It can cause you to go on a decades-long spiral of bad eating and bad habits, all of those things. So here's a couple of these weekly accountability forums, and we do daily accountability. We have 3 Zoom calls a week, but this is an extra thing that we do in the program to give the guys some one-on-one attention. All right, so this first guy here was talking about putting things off and procrastinating. He said, I need help to stop procrastinating these things that end up taking so much time, like these tasks that end up taking so much time. He said, I'm procrastinating them because they take up so much time, and they told me what they was, and they actually don't take up a lot of time. So here's what happens. Whenever we procrastinate, whenever we don't schedule and time block, and we put off the needle-moving things that we need to do to move our life ahead, like we put off the things that we think might take a long time or that are really important that we just don't want to deal with right now, like taxes and all that kind of stuff, the time you spend thinking about that thing in your brain enters the counter of how long that task takes. So if you think about filing your taxes for 2 months, the whole year you're like, oh, I don't want to file my taxes. That's a 2-month-long process. In reality, if you set aside 1 or 2 days and buckled down, you could probably, you spend 2 or 3 hours a day. Max might take you 2 or 3 hours a day. If you hire somebody to do it, it takes even less. That's the reality. It takes a couple of hours, but in your head it takes 2 months because you've thought about it for 2 months. Or it could be something really small, like writing an email to somebody that takes you 5 minutes. So instead of waking up in the morning, working out, coming home, knocking that out, spending 5 minutes on it, you procrastinate, and it's 12 o'clock, you're still thinking about it. It's 2 o'clock, you're still thinking about it. It's dinner time, you're with your family, you're not present because you're thinking about it. And then you're laying in bed trying to go to sleep, your wife wants to talk to you, and you're still thinking about this email you didn't send because you don't want to hear back from the person, and you're procrastinating. So really, in your head, that email took 24 hours. That task took way more time because you've thought about it for so long, because you procrastinated and avoided it. So the time we spend procrastinating and thinking about doing the thing in our head adds to that counter of how long the task takes. So it takes up a lot of brain space that could be clear for being present for our family, for building wealth, for building side hustles and ideas, for being creative, writing a book, doing anything other than thinking about the things you should have already have done. So how do you deal with that? You time block, you schedule, you plan your day in advance, you write down the day before, these are the things that I'm going to do tomorrow morning that I've been avoiding. And as soon as you wake up and you build yourself, which is mandatory, you wake up, you go to the gym, you journal, you do those things right off the bat. After that, boom, you start knocking out these tasks so that you can do more important things later on. Because then that email takes 5 minutes and you never think about it again instead of 12 hours. The second part to that is distraction. If you have something to do, like for example, my weekly check-ins, I've got a lot of guys in the group. I go through all of them and I get it done in a chunk of time. I have that time blocked into my day. If I do one check-in, pick up my phone, scroll Instagram, do another one, take a walk outside, do another one, grab a snack, I've turned this task into a multi-day process instead of boom, knock it out, get in the zone, get pumped up, get inspired in one chunk and give the guys everything I have for this couple amount of times instead of multitasking. And when you multitask, you do a worse job at every single one, plus it takes you longer. So analyze, are you being distracted as you're doing the tasks? That also adds to the time. Like that 5-minute email. Are you writing a couple sentences and then feeling good about yourself? So you click on Yahoo and Google and you look at the news articles, and then you go to Fox News and CNN, and then you write another couple emails, and then you check your phone, and this 5-minute email ends up taking an hour. So distraction is hugely important. Another thing that you probably have heard people talk about is called decision fatigue. If you have to do something, decide to do it. Stop thinking about doing it. Because decision fatigue is whenever your time, energy, and resources are used thinking about doing something instead of just doing it. I have guys who've messaged me about the Men of Fire program years ago, and then they'll message me 2 years later and say I'm still thinking about it. I'm like, dude, okay, keep thinking about it 5 years from now. Nothing's going to change, except nothing's going to change for you. How much of your brain space is being taken up just thinking about doing something? And I told this guy with the thing he was talking about, I said, no, time block it in, say I'm going to do it at 9 a.m., and just decide and stick to it. It doesn't matter if it's not the perfect time. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. You've decided, so you've eliminated the time you're going to spend thinking about when you should do it, why you should do it, what you should do. Eliminate the decision fatigue. So just get it done. And the last thing for this message here is you need a habit for your habit. Here's what I mean. If you want to create a habit that's sustainable, then you need to stack it, make it easy, and you need to create a habit for that habit, such as I want a habit of journaling every day. So you have to say, well, when am I going to implement this habit? Like I want to journal, but if I don't have a system for the habit, I get that that's a better way to say it. You need a system for your habits, which is after I wake up and go to the gym, as soon as I come home, my journal is sitting out on my desk. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to journal right then. That's your system for creating a positive habit in your life. in Men of Fire, we talk about creating systems, replacing our habits, and shifting our perspective. So you need a system to make these habits happen. So I want to journal every day. I'm going to make sure my journal is sitting out, or if I do it on a computer, I have it ready for me, and it's going to happen at this time. Time blocking is also a system, or the act of time blocking is a habit, but time blocking is a system that makes your habits happen. You can create a system through time blocking to make sure every single one of your habits stays. So you say, I'm going to work out at this time. I'm going to journal at this time. I'm going to blank at this time. So add those systems in to make sure those habits happen. Another guy was talking about how he used to feel before he did the program and how he used to feel before he had routines and habits. And he said, I felt like I was stuck in a ruck. I was complacent. I wasn't journaling. I wasn't tracking macros. I wasn't exercising. I felt like garbage. I was a miserable person to be around. I let myself down, and as a result, I brought my family down with me. My wife would even ask me what's going on, and I made excuses. I was angry with myself, and I felt powerless. I allowed myself to self-sabotage myself. As a result, everything was suffering. My family deserves better. So what that kind of guy needs is a kick in the ass. Because that just feels like I used to feel. I remember feeling that same way. It's a very self-pitying, woe is me, I'm stuck in this down place. And you need, right at that point, you need to get outside and go do lunges for an hour. You need to go outside and do a 10-minute plank. You need to jump in an ice bath. You need to shock your system whenever you are in that state. That's what that guy needed at that time. And he's feeling on fire. He's feeling amazing right now because he's pushed himself finally. He stopped being complacent. He stopped saying, woe is me. He stopped taking the easy route, and he joined a group of positive, inspirational men who were pulling him up. But you can find yourself in that down spot. It's easy to find yourself in that down spot of slowly allowing your standards to slip and slowly allowing your habits to go. And it happens 100% of the time. When fathers are miserable to be around in their family, it's because they're frustrated with themselves. That is why. They are upset with themselves. They've broken promises to themselves. They're disappointed in themselves. They said, I'm going to be great, but they've been acting like a bum. And because of that, they're so mad at themselves, they take it out on their families. So when you let yourself down, you punish your family. It always happens. Happened to me, happens to the guys I work with. If you let yourself go, you get so disappointed in yourself and you're so mad at yourself that you're just miserable to be around. So what do? You have to go prove to yourself that you're a savage once again. You have to go prove to yourself that you're not that lazy, complacent slob anymore. You need to get your butt up. Get your butt up, go to the gym, wake up earlier. You need to suffer a little bit more. Quit getting on the couch. Quit laying on the couch for so long. Yesterday, before my Men of Fire call, I did my workout with my son. We even did extra lunges, but I was sitting on the couch outside, and I said, Chris, get your butt off the couch, man. Get your butt off the couch. What are you doing? You shouldn't be this comfortable right now. So I went to the local football field, and I did lunges around the entire football field, around the track. Took me about 28 minutes, and my legs and ass are dead today. But that's exactly what I needed. I needed to kick myself in the ass. The worst thing I could have done is just done nothing and just laid there and just be so comfortable. Why do we have to be so comfortable? We're men, fathers, you're leaders. Why do we have to be so fat and comfortable? We're fine. How did we used to survive? It wasn't just, okay, here's something that tastes good for you, Dad. Here's something that feels good for you. Here's something to make you happy. Why do we have to feel that good? We don't. And the more of those things that we're constantly searching for, the worse we feel. Because we're so disgusted with ourselves, and then we become miserable to be around for everyone. So reject that. Reject all this. You need constant balance in your life. You need to constantly take a break. You need constant I deserve it. I promise you that's a recipe for misery. You don't need any of that. You need to get outside and push yourself harder than ever. That's what this guy did. That's why he feels amazing. All right, so this third one here. We had a guy who, he was crushing it. He was on fire for like 4 months, and most programs are only 3 months. But for 4 months, he was crushing. He got to his lowest weight since his college days. He quit drinking. He's feeling great all over the place. And then something happened at work, and he had like 3 weeks where he was just out of it. And he wasn't like as engaged as much, and he wasn't doing his check-ins, and he stopped working out as much. But the great thing about our program is that when that happens, you're not out of it. Like, we're here to support you. That's real life. Real life is you making mistakes and failing, but learning how to come back stronger. Real life is not a 90-day shred. Real life is you developing habits and an identity that sticks with you forever. That's why the focus is identity. So you can become a person who is resilient. Being resilient means you recover after you fall. So he fell, and he's back at it, but on fire more than ever. And some of the things he said, he's like, I feel like, he's down like 30, 40 something pounds. He's, like I said, quit drinking. His marriage is strong, but he had such a strong identity that whenever he took a couple weeks off, it rocked him. He's like, I feel like I'm starting over. So my message to him was, that's all in your head. And I was so happy he reached out and allowed me to help him through this, because, I said that mindset is just a mindset. Thinking that you're starting over is a mental barrier to what you could actually accomplish. It's a cage you're creating for yourself. If you're with us for 12 months, it's going to be a blip. You're not even going to notice it. You're climbing a mountain, and you take a night's sleep. That's what this is. It's like, well, I didn't make constant progress up the mountain. It doesn't matter. It's not the way real life works. That's not the journey we're on. The journey we are on is imperfect. We're not striving for perfection. We're not expecting perfection. We're expecting resiliency. We're expecting, we're encouraging lessons to be learned. The only way a lesson can be learned is through mistakes and failure. So sometimes we can create these expectations and perfectionism in our brains that stops us from making any progress. We say, well, I feel like a failure because I messed up, so because of that, I'm out. Instead of, I made a mistake, I'm not my mistakes, I'm just going to try again tomorrow. Like, be easily forgetful with your mistakes and failures. That's the way long-term you have more success. Think about it just from a percentages data point of view. Your emotions and mindset have a massive impact on what you can accomplish over the state of your life. I talked about this, I think I already talked about it in this podcast, but we were doing our Men of Fire call, and there was this 65-year-old guy who was sprinting up and down the field. Actually, I think I talked about it on some other content. I get my content platforms mixed up. I don't think I talked about this on a podcast yet. But we were doing our Men of Fire call. I was out there doing lunges around the field, and then we did the call. While I was doing the call, this 65-year-old guy shows up, takes his shirt off. He's bald with a little bit of gray hair around the side. The only thing he's wearing is shorts. Okay, no shoes, no socks, and he's just sprinting around the field. Just sprinting as fast as he can around the field. And he's jacked. He's ripped. He looks great. He's moving faster than 95% of people in the world. And then he's doing this for an hour straight. I look over. He's doing push-ups in the grass. He's sprinting again. Then he grabs a Frisbee. He's throwing a Frisbee. He's just living athletically. So in the middle of my call, I walked up to him, and I put him on the camera. And I said, tell me a little bit about yourself. He said, I'm 65. He's like, I started working out when I was 20 years old, and I just never stopped. And then I talked to him for a little bit and let the guys on the call listen to him speak, because I wanted them to be inspired by him. I wanted him to inspire them. If this 65-year-old guy can be in that great a shape and can not make excuses for himself, there's no reason we can. There's no excuse we can give ourselves. But if you don't expose yourself to that, then you'll continually give yourself excuses. Like for every single guy that was on the call, he limited all of their excuses. Now they won't give themselves any more excuses because they saw what this guy was doing. But if you are only around your own thoughts and experiences, then all of your excuses make sense to you. But when you're around other guys who aren't giving themselves excuses, or the excuses you're giving yourself don't make sense to them, you're like, yeah, man, that's nothing. I overcome that every day. They're like, oh, why have I been taking it so easy on myself? If you isolate yourself, if you're not around those kind of guys, if you don't take advantage of opportunities, when you have the opportunity to be around this kind of guys and you continually isolate, then you will continually buy your own bullshit. You will continually let yourself off the hook, give yourself the easy route, say, woe is me, I can't do it, my situation's unique. And then you find these other guys who are just crushing life at an unbelievable level and not buying their own excuses. And they're like, oh, I want to be like that too. That's why it's important to be around guys. But anyway, I brought up that old guy because he's 65. He said he's been working out for 45 years, basically. He's had some down weeks, months, or even years. He shared that with us. Like he hasn't been, it's not that every single day of these 45 years he was perfect. But at the end, he's definitely not at the end. He's got a lot of time left. If you if you zoom out, take a 20-mile high view of this guy's life, he has so many great days and years and memories because he didn't allow little excuses and little obstacles to sabotage himself. He could have been a guy who at age 35 said, I'm too old to get in shape. And meanwhile, this guy's 30 years older than that guy. Or I had a surgery so I can't do blank. Or life's crazy right now. I'm a dad and have kids and I'm busy at work. So because of that, I can't eat healthy. I need to drink beer. I have to stay up late. I can't get good sleep. And I can't go to the gym. Every single one of those is an excuse that somebody else has overcame and I've watched them overcome. You can either use your excuse as the reason you stay stuck, or you can say, this is my reality. I must become more of a person and become more resilient and find a way. It's like somebody who says they can't afford something. That is such a broke mindset that I overcame years ago, thank God, which finally got me out of that hellish place. Because everyone I grew up with had the same I can't afford it mindset of because I can't afford it, I can't get it. And I started listening to podcasts and reading books of people who didn't have that mindset. And they said, stop saying I can't afford it, say how can I afford it? I think Robert Kiyosaki is a famous example. Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, a bunch of people talk about that. Like you can have that mindset of I can't do something, or you can have the same problem and say how can I do that thing? Not I can't afford it, how can I afford it? Oh, I must become more resilient. That's a very 9-to-5 mentality. Like every 99% of the teachers I worked with, and I was a 9-to-5 teacher for most of my life, it's like, okay, this is how much money I'm going to make every year for the rest of my life. Because of that, I can do these things. Because when you're a teacher, you're on steps. You're on scale. You have salary steps. So I knew what I was going to make until the day I died. I knew what I would make through my 35 years working, and then after 35 years, you're fully vested in the pension, and then I knew what percentage I'd make with my pension. So literally until the day I die, I knew how much money I would make every single year. And as teachers, a lot of us adopt that mindset of this is my income, this is what's possible for me. Because of that, this is how I will live every day for the rest of my life. And for me, that caused massive, massive anxiety and stress. Like I hated that. I felt like I was building a cage around myself. Like, no, I want my income to be unlimited, untapped. I don't want to know what I'm going to make 30 years from now. I want to be a millionaire. I don't want a ceiling on my success. That scared the shit out of me, seeing that pay scale. I was like, man. And then seeing the kind of people, seeing what happened to not all, but most of the teachers right before retirement, just get super jaded and just kind of waiting until that pension kicked in, was really, really sad. I was like, I do not want that to be me. I don't care if I'm broke. I'm not going to allow me to turn into that because I'm waiting for a chance to sit on my ass and do nothing and collect a check. That in itself sounds like hell. I'd rather be homeless hiking mountains than sitting on my butt in a nice house doing nothing, but making good money. That sounds like hell to me. I forget how I went down that. I was talking about, let's backtrack. I was talking about, oh yeah, the old guy running, the other guy, the blip, telling him that it's just a blip on the radar these couple weeks out. Yeah, so you can allow minor setbacks to be life-altering decisions. You can easily say, I'm having a down day, so I'm going to take this week off. At the end of that week, you feel so differently, and your philosophies for life and your identity is so different that every decision you make after that is skewed, so the rest of your life is different. That can happen. It happens all the time. Like every next decision we make is impacted by our mindset and identity. Like every second decision is affected by the first decision. So what you believe is possible for you impacts every single decision you're going to make for the rest of your life. So if you don't think good things are possible for you, or you think I'm the kind of guy who's going to screw this up, or I'm not going to commit to this or blank, then every single decision for the rest of your life will be impacted. And you're going to have a different kind of life. That's why your attitude is so important. That's why what you listen to is so important. The voices that fill your head is so important. Your thoughts and your beliefs. That's why your identity is so important. Because it affects everything. How you see the world. It all comes through this lens of your eyes and your brain. It's the taking it in. We're taking in sounds, sights, smells, thoughts, and perceptions, and everyone's philosophy. And then we're deciding what to do with that, and then we're reacting to the world. So every single thing in the world is filtered through how we see it. So how you see the world matters. If you're an optimist, you'll have one kind of life. If you're a pessimist, you'll have another kind of life. If you think, I'm going to screw this up, it's very different than what's possible for me. Saying, I can't afford it, you'll have one kind of life. Saying, how can I afford it, that's a different kind of life. So that's where I'll end this one today. Those were some accountability check-ins and just my philosophies and talking through the advice I gave them, and kind of went down some other rabbit holes. But that's it for today for this solo podcast. Hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions or want to learn more about the Men of Fire program, then feel free to send me a DM on Instagram or anywhere, or an email, and I'll get back to you. See ya.